I go in and I'm performing the songs. It's just me and a piano player. I'm sweating. I'm nervous. Pit stains. It was terrible. And so auditioning in Atlanta is a totally different. It's a different culture altogether.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you go in there and you sing whatever the note and the stuff, and they're like, "Whoa, yeah!" Like, you know, the casting, they rocking. They like, "Sing, baby." In New York, she looked at me like, I mean, I was giving it, so I thought, and she just looked at me like, and I was like, "Wow." So, of the 10 songs that I had prepared, I think I had to do like 7 or 8 of them. And so, after I was done and I was trying to catch my breath and stuff, and so she looks kind of like picks up my resume, looks at it, and she was like, "I just have one question." And I was like, "Okay." She was like, "Who are you? Where did you come from? And why don't I know you?"
I'm your host, Zach Reynolds Jr. We're back for another great episode of Musically Hits, and I am here with the one and only Desmond Sean Ellington. He's an actor. He is a vocal artist. He's an entertainer, but most of all, he's just a great, great guy. Desmond, a pleasure to have you with us today. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me. I'm glad we finally were able to do this. We've been trying to do this for a minute.
No time like the present, man, so let's get into it.
Right. Everything is exactly as it's supposed to be. That's right.
Absolutely. Great. Well, let's dive right in. Tell us about your story. Everybody's Musically Hits journey starts somewhere. So talk about your origins, where you're from, and how did you get on this journey to becoming Musically Hits?
Yeah. Let's see. Well, the beginning, I was born in Elaine, Arkansas, which is in the southeast region of the state. A small little town, but if you look in your history books, there was quite an event back in the race riots time called the Elaine massacre. So I would invite anybody who's listening to go and look up what happened during that time, and just it's good to know our history, especially our American history. I don't say Black history or African American history.
That's
Our
right.
American history,
Right.
just so you can know. But anyway, that's where I'm from. That's where I was born. So my family's from Arkansas, and then we just kind of spread abroad from there. Um, I was probably around like 2 or 3 when we moved to Oklahoma with the military. My dad was in the army there, so we were stationed at Fort Sill, Oklahoma, and that is where I began my musical journey in the church. Um, Born and raised in the church, Pentecostal church, Church of God in Christ. So we was always around some
Yeah.
good singing, and good musicians and playing, and that just that whole speaking in tongues and shouting and tearing the church up and all of that. So that was my introduction to the world of music. I come from a musically inclined family as well. My sister sing, my mom sings, my dad, and it's interesting. I thought, just because we all sang and that's what we did, I thought we would all end up doing something musically, and I was the only one, which is like, oh, okay. 'Cause you have the Jacksons and you have the different family bands and stuff like that. So I was like, maybe that'll be how we do, and
Yeah.
that's
Right.
not what happened. But it's all good. Um, I didn't. I tell my mom it's her fault that we sing the way we do. She was pregnant. I don't know if she was pregnant with me or my sibling under me, but my mom and dad sang like when they were young. They were like BB and CC Winer vibe, that type of thing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And my mom told me that she was sitting there, and I don't think she really enjoyed singing like that, like performing like that.
Oh, really?
She did it. I don't think so, not as much as my dad.
Okay.
And so, but he sang, and so she sang with him, and they would do their duets. And so she said one day she prayed. She was like, "My children are going to sing for me, and I'm not going to have to sing anymore." And that's literally what happened. All 3 of us came out singing and wailing.
Really?
Yeah, yeah. And so that was, yeah, that was my introduction to music, was in the church. No formal training, no, vocal lessons classes. First of all, who could afford that? You go up there and sing with the Sunshine Band, then you grow up and you sing with the youth choir, and then you grow up some more and sing,
Right, right.
and that's just what it was. And so I knew early on that I liked the response of the audience, or the congregation, I should say. I'm like, okay, I can actually sing. Like, this is like really a thing. And so I was like, well, I'm gonna be a singer when I grow up, because that's what makes sense.
So what was that moment like for you? Because some people remember, some people's parents take them back to like when they were like 2 and 3, and they say, "No, you were singing when you were like 1, 2." And I
Yeah,
get
I
that now
was
as a parent, but when was the moment where you recognized, like you said, how old were you when you recognized I can sing?
okay. Funny story. Um, I was in the second grade, and our music teacher, God rest her soul, Miss Green. I think she was like one of the few Black people on staff at the school that I was attending, my elementary school. And so she was like the minister of music at like a local Baptist church in town, and she was the music teacher, at our school.
Mhm.
So it was her birthday, and every morning we would have like a general assembly where everybody's in the gym, and we do the announcements, we'll sing songs, Pledge of Allegiance, whatever, before the day starts.
Yeah.
So in the assembly, they were like, "Oh, everybody, it's Miss Green's birthday, and we're gonna all sing her happy birthday." So we did. The whole school sang her happy birthday. She's an older lady, like older, Black auntie. Just everybody
Yeah,
has a Miss Green in their life at some point.
yeah.
So we sing happy birthday all the way. Oh, woo! Happy birthday to you, yay! And so she came to the mic. She didn't say, "Oh, thank you." She said, "Desmond, come here."
And depending on that come here, we don't know if you're in trouble or not at this point, right?
Well, I knew I hadn't done anything, so I knew I wasn't in trouble. But I was just like, "Why is she calling me up here?" And she said, "I want Desmond to sing me happy birthday."
Oh, wow. So she called you
And
out.
so, yeah, she's like, "I want you to sing happy birthday." And so, of course, everybody's kind of like, okay. So I walk up there, and I'm kind of walking gingerly. I'm in, second grade at this time. And so I'm just like, okay, I start singing, kind of hesitantly or whatever. She said, "Sing it how I know you can sing it." I was
Mm,
like, "Oh,
wow, wow.
okay." And I said, "Oh," like I went in.
He said,
And
"A flat, huh?"
right, right. Oh, I
Oh,
said, "I got permission to go off?" Oh, okay, okay. I
right.
was trying to be cool, but that was the first time where I was like, huh, somebody singled me out for, the gift that I have. And it just kind of, went on from there. But yeah, that was a very, even to this day, I'm like, I cannot believe that happened to me. And she was serious. She was like, "Come on, come sing this song." And, she's like, "I want you to do all the tricks and stuff.
Wow.
And so yeah, that was the moment that I can remember where, a seed was planted of me being a performer,
Oh, wow.
and being called on. You know what I mean? You hear a lot of like artists say, "Yeah, Quincy Jones called me to come sing at his birthday," or Stevie Wonder. Like that was like my first experience of someone. I want Desmond to do X, Y, and Z. So yeah, that's for me. That's where it started. First thing, yeah. And I think even then, and I have a little bit of this now. Like I know, I knew then that I could sing. I knew that because I sang in church with the choir and stuff like that. But outside of that's all I knew was inside the church.
Mhm.
So that opportunity happening like at my school, which was a different space, a different marketplace, if you will, because we wasn't in there saying hallelujah, because in church everybody can sing. That's nothing new. But over there in that school, wasn't nobody singing like that, you know. So that was like my first, opportunity outside of the church or the
Mhm.
church walls to express my gift.
That's great, man. So this Miss Green is
Miss Green,
a pivotal player in your
yeah,
development, it sounds like. I mean, even,
yes,
we've talked about confidence boosters with different guests in the past. Like, what was it that, you having the knowledge that you can do it is one thing, but then having that affirmation that she gave you
yeah,
at that early age, because you're still single digits, right? You're not even 10 years old yet, right? So you're still
right.
coming into your own, and you don't even really, you don't know
Don't know
everything
nothing.
you know now.
I just say yes, ma'am. Be obedient.
Exactly. Right. But she put you on Front Street, so that's going to help, right? I can see it already that was critical to your development. When you look back full circle now and you think of those moments, I'm sure, just like you recanted that story, that's amazing that you're in stages in front of thousands, literally nightly now, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
but those Miss Green lessons are still coming through,
Miss
huh?
Green. Oh, she was so tough. You mess up on a song or a note, you couldn't go out to recess. And I was
Yeah.
just like, I would, I would be looking at the other kids, because harmonizing and blending and picking up on melodies and notes that just kind of came naturally. That's just, and so other kids, it wasn't a natural thing, and oh, they struggled.
Yeah.
Oh, and I would just be like, oh, bless their hearts. Like, I'm like, we literally in here singing, this land is your land, this land is my land. It is not that hard.
Mm,
But she was like, if y'all don't get it right, y'all not going outside to play. And I'm like, okay, y'all, come on, because I want to go outside and play.
right.
That's
Right.
what I wanted to do. I wanted to be a kid. And but that is one thing I remember. Miss Green, she ran. I think she probably ran that school because she took her breaks and lunch breaks and off whenever she wanted to.
I'm convinced. I'm
I think
convinced Miss Green was in
everybody
charge.
has a Miss Green. Yeah, no, she was in charge. She sure was. But she loved me, and so it was all good. Like, I'm like, she loves me. I don't have a problem. So
Yeah, right. So was there formal training along the way? Was it just Miss Green, or who else played a role as a youth adolescent in your musical development?
I would say as I got older, definitely my dad was an integral part of my development. So because he was a musician and he sang as well, so he would have us sing like with him, So me and my sisters, we would sing background. That's where we learned, harmonies, and you take the top part, I take that type of thing. Come on up. I want my children to come up and sing with me, and we come up there. I'm 12, and my other sisters are like 6 and 3, and we all got our microphone, and we all doing that. And I think my dad saw something in me that was like, okay, let's see where we can take this. And I think, I mean, again, it's one of those things where it's like, I just want to be a kid. I just want to play, and I just want to be regular. There we go.
Mhm.
I just want to be regular. God, I'm so glad that's not my thought now.
Right.
But being 12, and you have this gift, this amazing gift, and you have the other 12-year-olds kind of like looking you upside your head. Well,
Yeah.
why you get to. I'm like, I didn't ask for this. I
Mm,
would love just to be able to play with y'all. And so like my dad was very like, when we're at church, you're gonna sit up here on the front row. You aren't going to be playing and running around the church or outside and all of that. You're going to come up here and sing. You're going to come. So it began this kind of like discipline. And
wow.
he would say to me, "You're not like those other kids." And I'm like, "But am I though?" Like, but I want to be. I want to be accepted. I want to be. I don't want to be looked at, with jealousy or so forth and so on. And he just wouldn't accept that. He said, "You're special. You are set apart," and that's just what he instilled in me from that age, like that 12-year-old age, and 10, 11, 12. And so it just kind of became a thing like, okay, yes, sir.
Yeah.
And looking back, I'm glad for that training and that instilling of, you know, shine. You're gonna shine and you're gonna do something. And so I remember times where maybe I was hoarse or couldn't really sing and we had to go to church and it was time to sing. And I'm like, but I'm hoarse. He's like, well, you're gonna learn how to sing through your hoarseness. And I'm like, what? Like, that doesn't even make sense, getting up there squeaking and squawking. Now I'm going through puberty and all of
Mhm.
those things. But all of those things made me a better singer, a better vocalist. That even now, where I could be going through a full-on allergy attack, I can still go on stage and perform. So no, I wouldn't say I didn't have any formal training. It was just all just people in my life that kind of helped prompt me to push myself and to speak and affirm me. And uh and then my mom, she was the type where mom doesn't believe. She was like, we don't believe in holding back. Like, if you get up there and sing and I feel like you wasn't giving what it was supposed to give, you're gonna be in trouble. Like, that was my life. Like, and I was like, no, I was just trying to pace myself. I didn't want to give it all. She was like, no, you up there holding back. When you get on that mic, when you get in front of those people, you get on that stage, you leave it all on the stage. And so those were the moments of training. And I'm not even sure in their mind at that time they're like, yeah, I'm going to train him and I'm going to make him the next whatever. I just believe that they saw that there was something special in me that, of course, I'm too young to see and too young to know what to do with. And they're like, no, we're going to make sure that that you do, and that we as parents, as guardians over you, do what we're supposed to do to nurture this gift. And I will say they did that. They did that. So once I was able to fly on my own and I was able to take all of that with me, it just took me on from there. But yeah, I sometimes I wish that I had the formal training story, because again, mostly everybody else does. But it's just another one of those things that sets me apart. And and now in this age, everybody is like, I want to be my own person. I'm not trying to be part of the group. I'm not trying to be everybody. I'm not trying to be in the herd. So I like to be able to share this with people and students and so forth and so on, to let them know you don't have to go the formal route in order to have whatever in career or dream happen. There are engineers who, and I say engineers because I actually went to school on an engineering scholarship. But there are engineers who are creating all kind of tech, and they are millionaires and don't have a degree. So it's everybody's journey is different. Everybody's journey is different. Um, we just have to learn as we go on the journey and pick up tidbits from here and pick up knowledge from here and let me try this, and that's really how I became the singer, I should say, that I am. Listening to the Clark sisters, listening to the Winans family and the Hawkins family, just mimicking them, listening to that, like, let me, how do I do that, that's literally all we would do growing up. We would listen to those records and mimic the riffs and the runs and the high notes and until we were able to do them ourselves and figure out, how to make it our own. And yeah, so I'm really, really thankful for my musical upbringing and the church for giving us that space to express ourselves musically. And so yeah, I definitely credit the church, my mom and dad, and Miss Green for my training. Yeah.
Awesome, man. It was critical. Like you said, now without training and without having that, push, right? Because musical training is one thing, but we've talked about before about specifically that church has given a lot of vocalists and musicians an incredible opportunity to know how to improv. or to
Mm-hmm.
audiences. So you can't understate that when you look back at your journey and you look at what you're doing now. You know, a Broadway actor, again, in front of
Yeah.
people nightly, and how even though there's a script and there's a specific plan, obviously, for what you're supposed to say,
Mm-hmm.
no one can teach you quite how to emotionalize a moment. Would you agree?
Right.
That's something you just got to read. And this, I think you told us you're in Michigan right now, but you know,
Mm-hmm.
Michigan's crowd is going to be different than LA's crowd. LA's crowd,
Right.
you go back to Little Rock and you're in your hometown, and people
Yeah.
know you and they remember when, and then there's Atlanta markets, and there's just so many different places that you go and you're singing in front of people, but the way they receive and the way they respond could be different, and you know how to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Emotional intelligence, I would call it, in
Yeah.
front of an audience, you know, as a singer.
Yeah. No, and it's again, like I said, I'm proud of the journey that I've been on that has led me to this point. And yeah, it is good because especially, and like Broadway and music, it's changed so much over the last 10 years, 20 years, where before, it was strictly what's on the page, hello Dolly, and so as Broadway has now become more contemporary, and now we have like Rent and Hamilton and The Lion King, stuff that isn't really like straight up and down what's on. Now we have soul, and we have the Temptations on Broadway, we have Motown on Broadway, and so all that stuff, that's you can't write that, you can't, you know and so it's very interesting now being in this world and on this side of things in Broadway, where they're looking for actors who can feel the moment, can deliver something that's not written on the page. And so it's such a good time for us. And when I say us, I mean, like, musicians and singers, maybe from the church background or whatnot, because they're looking for us. They're looking for people who can and act, sing. I'm like, we did all that in church, and we our Christmas plays and Easter speeches, and I'm like, yeah, this is what we've done, what we've always done. And you want to pay me for this? Sign me up. But yeah, and it's like I know, and I'm like, oh my goodness, I know so many people who, given the chance, would absolutely kill up here, you
Right.
know. But again, it's just being open to the journey, because I did not see myself here. I mean, not in this space, all I knew, because again, I grew up in the church, so I knew about singing, I knew about recording artists, I knew that world. So I'm like, okay, I guess I'll be, a famous singer and go on tour, blah blah blah. And when it didn't come out like that, I could have been like, well, unless it's that, I'm not doing that. And you and I wouldn't be talking on this interview right now, Um, but I was open to the plan for my life, that led me to this point. And now I'm touring and I'm performing in front of 1,000 people every night. So it's the same language, the same verbiage, but it's just, you know what I mean? It's a little different. And it's beyond anything that I could have, imagined at the time. Which is why, like, I heard Oprah say, God definitely can dream a bigger dream for you than you can for yourself. And even now, I'm still considered a new actor. Um, Hamilton is my first major role, um, since I started acting professionally, like, where that's all I do. And so I'm learning. I use this time. I've been with Hamilton for going on 5 years now,
Really?
and yeah, yeah. So Hamilton, this time for me has been almost like a graduate program, if you will. I'm a student, and I'm learning. I'm learning how to act. I'm learning how to breathe. I'm learning, all these new ways of doing things. Because in the show we say a lot of words really, really fast. I think everybody knows that. And so when you've never done anything like that before, it's an adjustment.
Mhm.
It's an adjustment, and I'm like, woo, okay. I think I'm like say the fastest I've ever talked. I can now we speak in tongues. Now we be talking fast, but but we're rapping and dancing and running and doing all of that. And so, I had to learn, like, okay, this is a different ball game, but I know I'm able to do it because the opportunity came to me. So yeah.
How important is it to be able to adapt? Like as an entertainment professional,
Mm-hmm.
you're in a lot of environments. You got to start in the church. We're not going to skip over your background singing career. We got to go back. We talked about Broadway already, but we got to talk the stages you were on before Broadway.
Mm-hmm.
Adapting to the environment that you're in and how you need to be adaptable and be flexible as a performer. What speak to that for a moment for our listeners.
I mean, I think adapting should be as important to you as you want it to be. Some people are happy where they are. Doing, like I'm here, my bills are paid. I have a little bit to whatever, so I'm fine. And 20, 30 years later, they're still fine, But as history has shown, even in the world, in the earth, if you don't evolve, you risk extinction. If a tree isn't able to adapt to the cold weather, is going to die. Or if an animal, is in a certain space and evolution takes time, but I think in order to be the greatest part of you and the greatest, or I should say, what you were meant to be, the greatest part of that, what you're meant to be, you definitely have to adapt. And that doesn't mean you have to change who you are. You're bringing who you are to the situation, to the environment, and the environment is adapting to you as well.
Mm-hmm.
And so that is very important. It can't always be, well, back at home in such and such Mississippi, this is how we do it. Well, you're not in Mississippi anymore. Or Arkansas or whatever. This is what we do here. And if you want to, make it, you got to okay, well, how are y'all doing this? Because I only thought it's done this way. You have to ask questions. You have to, be open. And you're going to hear me say be open for the rest of this interview because it's just true.
Are you ready to take your entertainment career to the next level? Contact us today at info@moreentertainment.com to schedule your personal consultation or music business coaching session.
When I left home, like way back in the 2000s, and went to Atlanta, I was already singing like background. At that time, it wasn't really like on the level that it would eventually get to. But I knew I enjoyed it. I enjoyed because I sang with my family. I sang, we did that. So that was nothing new for me. And I'm like, and you're going to pay me to do it? Sign me up. And I do talk about money and stuff like that. And, I don't want people thinking that, oh, he's just so passionate and he's just about his craft. And I'm also about my business. So be not dismayed when you hear me talk about money and getting paid and enjoying it, because, I have to support myself and I have, bills to pay as well.
Well, that's what this is about. We want to make sure that our listeners understand, there are some people that do this, on a level of amateurism, and that's okay. Mm-hmm. Because you can be musically hitched and not make a living from music. You can love music, you can love entertainment, and do it just for the art that it is. A specific community that is doing this for a living, and one of the whole goals of this platform in general is to make sure that people understand exactly how people went from singing in church, singing in choir, being in chorus in high school, being in college, and they have literally built a career out of music. And you cannot have a career without getting a paycheck.
Come on.
Right? So it's very important to do not apologize. As a permission, you tell the entire story, because that's what a lot of listeners want to know. Some people are listening to us right now, and they're hoping that I'm going to ask you, how much do you get paid on Broadway? Answer that question directly. But it helps people, I think, to aspire to, if you even reveal a range, said this is what you could expect without revealing your own pay. You may just say, if you make it to where I'm at, this is, because let's say a simple question. Can you survive and pay your bills as an adult being on Broadway?
Yes.
Easily, right?
Yes, easily.
Some
Some
of your castmates have a wife, a husband, kids.
Yeah. Houses, mortgages,
exactly.
Cars, all of that. And most of them live in New York. And so you all know living in New York is a whole different situation than living in Atlanta or, somewhere else.
Right.
So yeah, no, but in any industry, as you continue to climb, there's going to be more resources and funds and stuff like that. But yeah, no, I will be 40 next year. And I just got to the place now where, of course, I'm making more money doing what I do than I ever have in my whole life. And I've done some things. And so, I'm very comfortable. Thank you, Lord. But it took a while to get here. And I think, again, that's, like you said, that's the message, the getting there. Everybody sees, like, people are famous, people are rich, people are this or whatever. But that journey of getting there, man, thankfully I haven't had to live in a car.
People have their story, right?
But people have that story, Thank you. I'm so thankful that wasn't my plight.
Well, I think you hit it was a major moment. So like I said, listeners want what's real, and we want to be real on Musically Hits, because it's one thing to love music, it's another thing to understand. It's one of the hardest things to do, is to make a living, because COVID, out of the picture. It was hard before COVID.
Yeah.
For music, especially if you wanted to be comfortable, right? And so one of my other pet peeves is the term starving artist. I get it. I understand what it means, but artists don't have to starve.
Nope.
Prince didn't starve. Michael Jackson didn't starve. Quincy Jones doesn't starve.
Yeah.
Hans Zimmer doesn't starve.
Yeah.
You keep going and naming names. Dolly Parton certainly didn't starve. So these people, at some point, like you said, were not famous. They made an extraordinary commitment to their craft. Bought into the idea that you can make a living from this, and I can be solely focused on this. And as a matter of fact, the more solely focused I am at this, the more likely it is that I'm going to produce an excellent product that will get me paid. And we can get paid in this industry residually, both as musicians, singers, and actors and actresses.
Yeah.
We can talk about that a little bit more, because I know you dabbled in TV a bit, I heard. So we'll probably need to circle back on some of these topics again before the interview's over. But I'm glad we because it's necessary, and people do, inquiring minds want to know.
Yeah. And you made a good point, and I said, I'm not doing the starving artist. That was never appealing to me. And so I was like, I will go back and live with my mama before I have to, you know what I mean? That's just, and thank God I had that opportunity, not opportunity. I had that freedom, if something go down and you out here on the streets, you can always come home. Like that's always been a thing. So I'm like, okay, thank God for a safety net. I never went back home. But on top of that, if I just want to add what you were saying about, all those amazing artists and creators that you mentioned. There came a point in all of those lives that you mentioned that they had to take a leap. They had to take a leap. And I think that is because you can hone your craft, you can be in the back in the basement in the studio doing all the tracks and all the pilots, all the podcasts, that you want. But if you never put it out there, if you never leave your comfort zone, your home team, your home base, maybe you're famous in your home city.
Talk about
it. I remember when I made the decision to move to Atlanta. I was living in Arkansas at the time, and I had done a little bit of background singing work. So how I got into background singing before acting came along, I was hired, I should say, to be a part of this singing group for this gospel recording that was happening. And so the producer of that project that I was singing on, his name is Cedric Thompson. And if you all don't know who he is, look him up. He's a phenomenal producer in the gospel world. Karen Clark, Finally Karen, Donald Lawrence, Tri-City Singers, like that's all him. So, look him up because you've probably heard his work.
Shout out to
I'm sorry?
Shout out to Cedric Thompson.
Shout out to Cedric Thompson. Yes, North Carolina. So I was with him during a studio session, and so we were just doing like some overdubs and fixes on some of the takes that we had done, and so we just got to talking. It was just me and him in the studio at the time, and so he was like, "So you have this amazing voice, and you're really good at recording and blah blah blah. So what are you trying to do with your life? What do you want to do?" And I was like, "Well, I want to sing. That's a given." I was like, I guess I want to be a artist, that, makes sense. Right. And so, he was like, yeah, I think you would be, good in that world. And, and definitely, the background world, cause I started singing background in, around 2004. Around 2004 is when this kind of moment was happening. And again, there was a shifting happening even then in the world of background singers, where background singers were getting like notoriety, with different artists. Before it was just, you never know who they were. They were there in the back, Now you got background singers that, coming out doing solos with the artist, and now people know, who they are. I'm like, oh, the Lisa Fishers and people like that who sang background for Luther, and people never knew their names and who they were. And, y'all look her up if y'all don't know who Lisa Fisher is as well. And so, so during that time, background singers were becoming, especially in our world and like in the gospel and R&B world, were becoming like a thing where people are actually recognizing, the background singers. And so I was with Cedric, and I was like, I love background singing, I love harmonizing, and I love, that type of thing. And so he was like, wow, that's great. And so he said, man, I wish, he said, if I had met you, what did he say? If I had met you like a month earlier, I would have had you on this project that I'm working on now. And I was like, oh, really? Oh, wow. I'm young 20-something-year-old. And just him saying that was like, oh, I can't believe that okay, that's, wow, thank you for that. And so he was like, yeah, I'm working with this new artist, this new gospel artist out of Houston, working on his first album. And he was like, yeah, I would have definitely had you, on this project. And so I was like, wow, that's what's up. So a few weeks go by. And so I'm in Atlanta at this time, but I'm not living there. The group that I was singing with, we were performing in Atlanta at this particular time. And so the guy who was over the group gets a call and motions to me that, I need to take this call. And so he's like, Cedric is on the phone. He wants to talk to you. And so I was like, oh, okay. Hey, Ced. And so he was like, hey, Des, real quick. You remember that guy I said that I was working with? I was like, yeah. He was like, all right, so I'm firing the tenors that are working on this project, and I need you to come in and do this project. And I'm like, what? This was a Friday. Keep this in mind, because as I tell the rest of the Hamilton story, keep these days in mind. Mm-hmm. This was a Friday night. Okay. He was like, I want you and my wife, LaJune Thompson. And if you all don't know who LaJune Thompson is, look her up. One of the most phenomenal singers you will ever hear. Yes, shout out to LaJune. Yes, sir. So he's like, I want you and LaJune to fly out here to Houston. Houston is where the project was being recorded, to do this album. And he was like, I'm flying you out Monday. I need you to have all this music learned by Tuesday, because that was the first day of rehearsal and the recording was Friday. So now all of this is like, my mind is like spinning at this point. And so all I said was, I won't let you down.
How much music?
It was 12 songs.
12 songs. Did you know any of them at all?
No, they were all original. So from Friday night, when he sent me the email with the music, I had Saturday, Sunday, and Monday to learn these songs. And it just so happened that, and I was like, and at the time I was like, well, who is the artist? Who is, because all I knew was just some new guy that was on the scene. And he was like, the guy's name is Micah Stampley. And he's working with Bishop T.D. Jakes and so forth and so on. And he's doing this live recording. And I was just like, okay, cool. And I went to, I flew to Houston, and when I tell you, I married myself to that music. Like, that's all I listened to in the shower, in the bed. When I was asleep, I had my headphones on. And because I was like, what I'm not gonna do is get down here and don't know my stuff. Not when I'm given this opportunity. And so by the time we got to rehearsal that Tuesday, I knew I knew all the parts: the tenors, the altos, the soprano part. I knew what the bass line would do. Yes. I was not going to mess up this opportunity. So much so, I remember that first night that we were in rehearsal and we was running through all the songs, and Micah looks at me like, okay, song was over, we're taking a break. He looks at me, he's like, how long have you had this material? I said, I literally just got it a few days ago. He was like, and you know all these songs? I was like, yeah. And he was like, wow, that's impressive. And I saw Ced over on the keyboard just kind of give a little, like, smile of approval, like I picked a good one. Mm-hmm. And that album ended up being Micah Stampley's like biggest album of his career. The songs like War Cry and Take My Life, like those big songs, we recorded that album. And so that was my first time on a professional like gig with a budget, where I didn't even know what a per diem was until I got to the airport and they handed me an envelope of cash. I was like, what the money laundering is going on? What is this? They're like, this is your per diem. Per diem, what is that? So I had to learn, like, per diem is, for your food and for your, this and that. And I was like, oh, okay. And I get a check, a salary check as well. Like, oh, this is, So I'm adapting even then. I'm learning this new world that I've kind of been thrust into. And I'm, we're just going, we're chill. We're not stressing or whatnot. And that was my first professional background gig. And I was still living in Arkansas, but I was just traveling to where like Sid was traveling to Houston. And I was like, I got to get somewhere where this is happening. Because if I'm in Arkansas and the music scene ain't in Arkansas, you know what I'm saying? So I'm like, I have to go where the scene is.
Right.
And I was like, at that point, I was like, I don't know where to go because I'm not going to New York. I'm not going to LA. That's too far and too expensive. Like the closest music cities to me right now are Nashville and Atlanta. And so I was like, okay, God, where am I supposed to go? And I promise you, I felt the spirit say, where do you want to go? And I was like, but wait, you're supposed to lead and guide me, you know? You're supposed to instruct me in the way I'm supposed to go. And it was like the spirit was just, where do you want to go? Because you're going to be blessed in the city and in the field. You know what I'm saying? So blessed when you come and when you go. So where do you want to go? And so I literally, what made me make Atlanta the decision where I'm going? Because I was like, I don't want to go where I don't know absolutely anybody. I knew no one in Nashville. I knew 2 people in Atlanta, 2 of my college buddies that I met when I was in school. And so I never told anybody. I never like spoke it out loud. I said, okay, in my mind, I was like, I'm going to go to Atlanta. After just that thought, maybe like 3 days, not more than a week, one of the 2 guys in Atlanta calls me out of the blue. Hey man, how you doing? You've been on my mind. I'm like, oh wow, yeah, I'm good, you know, and just kind of been, you know, figuring out my life and stuff like that. And I was like, I think I want to move to Atlanta. And he was like, that's why you've been on my mind. He was like, you need to be here, you know. And he was like, you can live with me, you can stay in, you know, I have this big house out here, you know. And so again, the people are in place. You just have to progress forward, even if it's in your mind. Even if it's in your mind saying, I'm going to do this. That is progress. And so I quit my job that I was working at the healthcare company, drove to Atlanta, and that's when I was there for a month, and before I met Rachel, and the rest, you know, the rest is history. Like I met her. She was singing in that time. All over the, you know, people called Rachel when they needed singers. And so like, it was a chance meeting. No, it wasn't a chance meeting. It was divine. Because of course I was like, I don't know how to break into the industry here, you know, but it's good to know someone who can bring you in.
Right.
You know? And so I was there for about a month, and I ended up hearing about this audition. Neo, the R&B singer Neo, was looking for background singers. And so I went to the audition, and Rachel was there, and we ended up talking, and, you know, like, oh, okay, I just moved here, and I sing, look for, you know, blah, blah, blah. And at that time she was already singing with like people like Darwin Hobbs, you know, all the gospel people that were there in Atlanta, since that's where a lot of them are. And so she was like, okay, cool. Let's, you know, we exchanged numbers, we kept in touch. And she was like, come to my church and you know, and sing and blah, blah, blah. So I did that. And she was like, okay, cool. She was like, I'm working with this producer named Kevin Bond. And I'm like, you mean the Kevin Bond? Like, she's like, yeah, you know. And so if you don't know who Kevin Bond is, he's For Every Mountain, Kurt Carr. What is the Yolanda Adams song? He Kept Me. I've been through many hard trials. That's Kevin Bond. You know, so he is, famous producer, gospel producer. And so she was like, yeah, I'm working with Kevin, and he's needing some singers for this recording that he's doing. Would you be, you know, interested? And so I was like, heck yeah. Oh my God, I'm such a fan of his. And we're working on the album, or we're getting together. And that album was another Michael Stampley album. And I was like, wait, what? I was like, I know Micah. I worked on his first album. So by this time, I think this was like his third album that we were working on. And so it just went from there. Now I'm now I'm singing with Angie Stone and Selena Johnson, and now I'm performing in Africa, and now I'm in Europe, and now I'm in, Amsterdam, and now I'm in Turks and Caicos, So I was traveling all over the world, singing my doo-wop doo-wop bop bops, as Tamar would say, but learning the industry, learning what it takes to be an artist and to tour and to, y'all, it is not easy. It is not easy, doing that, but you see the passion that these artists have, that this is what they do, and they're willing to do it for not a lot of money at a lot of times. And so I really enjoyed it. I pretty much did that for my whole time living in Atlanta. When did I leave Atlanta? I left Atlanta in 2015, right? So that was pretty much what I did. I worked odds and ends jobs, during that time, in the low times and stuff like that. Because again, no starving artists over here. I gotta eat. So if I needed to find myself behind a desk, I did just that. I had no pride, no ego. I will go clock in. Even now, if something happened and I can't do this show anymore, I will go. I can do so many things.
Well, we cannot do. We cannot starve. What we're not going to do.
We cannot starve, and we will not.
Let's go back. I want to sit on something for a second before we go, because I know we still got a lot more to talk about. But you said some very powerful things. Number one, and this is a recurring thing. So again, and to add value to our listeners, we want to make sure that we're offering practical strategies for success. And in one previous episode, we talked about the necessity to relocate geographically. That on the initial episodes, Crystal and I shared our story moving on up, where we matriculated and moved from North Carolina to New York City, back in the day to give ourselves a different environment, exposing ourselves to opportunities. And everybody doesn't need to do that, because some people do grow up in music centers.
Right.
But for those of us that did not, but have big city dreams, right? Want to be on the big screen, et cetera, big stages. You physically may have to move. We live in a digital world. So you can now in New York without being in New York. Zoom opened up the floodgates for, we're doing a podcast interview via Zoom right now, right? People can be in different places. I'm in Georgia, Atlanta, you're in Michigan. We don't have to be in the same place to be exposed anymore. Media changed that. But I want to highlight the fact that you were in Arkansas and you realized that the industry was not going to come to you, right? So you packed up your bags on your own, and then you had a confirmation of sorts by a college buddy. This is where you need to be. Matter of fact, I'll make it for you. So the more committed you get to this idea of this dream coming to pass, the more the way becomes clear for how to do it. You didn't necessarily have an apartment even. Someone had you on their mind also because it was your destiny. And it's happened, and you have to pay attention, right? We had a conversation earlier about paying attention to the people. And another music industry colleague back in the days always said, Zach, pay attention to the phone. People asking for on the other end of the phone. Are you catching that? Are you listening? Because that's the way they see you. So he saw you as a bona fide singer, that if he could just get to Atlanta, all of the things that you basically just took us down the street and described from those opportunities, from the Cedric Thompson opportunity, which did happen before you left, to your point. But you ended up running into Micah Stampley again, being an Atlanta artist. And then I'm not sure if we said Rachel's full name earlier, Rachel James.
Rachel James, yes.
No stranger
Shout out to Rachel.
Anywhere, but just to make sure our listeners know, another person to Google, right?
Yes, another person to look her up. Yes, she's that girl.
These are people that you're meeting at auditions. They're locally based, and now you're locally based. You've always been there, but now you're plugged in. You're getting into the community and the the wheels are turning now.
Mm-hmm.
You
And
start
now I don't have to audition anymore. I just get the call. Can you do it?
exactly, and that's what changes things, because one minute you're the outside guy who's from the out of towner, and
Mm-hmm.
weeks later you sung at a few churches and went out to a few dinners and had a few drinks, whatever, and now people know
Yeah.
it's Dez, right? And they're
Yeah.
because you're now 20 minutes away instead of 6 hours away.
Yeah.
There's a lot of value in that changes your trajectory as an entertainment professional. So for those that are thinking about, if you need a push, you need to jump that leap of faith, this episode
Yeah.
is confirmation that it's time to do it.
Yeah. It and it's so interesting where and you're right, we are in the digital world now. Even me, like most of my auditions, especially, during COVID, post-COVID, have been self-tapes. A self-tape is where you literally film yourself on a tape on your phone or whatever and send in an audition, versus in-person auditions. But there is something about, and I'm going back to what you're saying as far as, maybe you don't have to move to Atlanta, move to LA, move to New York or whatnot. And again, I'm speaking specifically for the industry that I'm in, that I've dealt in. There is something about leaving your comfort zone. It's something about it. It's something about it that, even just like a child living in their parents' house, there comes a time when it's time for you to leave your parents' house. So you can become your own man, you can figure out your own life without, your safety net and stuff being paid for you. You got to get out here in this world and figure out how to live and how to be, and I'm just my experience has been it wasn't until I left home that I started becoming who I'm going to be, becoming who I am now, and just letting go of that fear. Well, what if I get out here and fall on my face? What if you get out here and don't? What if you get out here and do?
Right.
What, you gonna fall on your face a few times, but that at least means that you're trying, that you're doing something, and it's almost like, if I can equate it to like at a fair or like a carnival, and how they have like the little fun house, that you ride in and stuff does, whatnot. That fun house, all those like whimsical decorations and the animatronics and all of those great things have already been built. They've already been programmed. They've already been designed to wow you, but you will never see it if you don't go in and get on that ride. Like literally, it's designed to, as soon as that car gets to this certain point, something pops out and says, it will make you say, wow, or ooh, but you'll never get that wow and ooh if you never get in the cart and start the journey. And when you get, and it's like when you make that leap and you do whatever that leap means for you, and you see stuff start like fall into place and click, you're like, man, I should have did this 10 years ago. Like, what was I waiting on? But thank God, he will redeem the time. And all the time that you think you lost or you think you may have missed out on, listen, that stuff gonna come in triplicate. And you'll be like, whoa, wait, hold on. This is a lot, and that's really been my story, where I'm like, I'm not old by no stretch of the means, but in this industry where most people are teenagers and 19 and young, getting started really young, and you have people who don't have their first whatever until 40, 45, so forth and so on. So don't ever let your age make you, don't even think about that, because it don't matter. Right. And I mean it don't matter. Yeah. It doesn't. It's what you decide you want to do. It's what you decide that you're open to. And going back to what we were talking about earlier about just being kind and being genuine, if I was a jerk in college, do you think that guy would have called me and said, come, you know what I mean? So everything that we do, it matters.
Right.
It may not matter in that moment, but down the line, something's going to come up, and so like I said, I think that's the overall thing is learn how to be kind, be genuine, be yourself, be confident, but be nice, because people remember that. People remember that. Producers remember that. Casting directors remember that. MDs remember that. I remember a producer told me that he would rather hire someone who is less talented but knows he's going to be there and be dependable than the best musician in the world, but he always got an attitude and always late.
Right.
So I took that, into heart, and I mean, I'm going to still work at being the best. I'm not just going to stop and be like, okay, I'm good where I am. No, I'm going to still work at my craft, still going to hone my craft and be better, but I'm going to be on time.
Right.
And by on time, I mean early, because that matters. People see that. People see that. There was a time when I was living in Atlanta, that the the comedian actor Monique had a talk show, and that was filmed in Atlanta, and I was one of the house singers for the second season. And so I'm up there performing with whoever comes through: Charlie Wilson, Jody Watley, oh my God, so Chuck Brown when he was still alive. And so now we're not in the church, we're out of that, that segment. So now we're into television production. So now this is a different environment, a different layer, right? So we have call times. We have, looks and first looks and wardrobe and all of that. So again, we're in a different environment. And I'm like, okay, now I'm about to be on TV. If I want to thrive and if I want to, like, okay, so what do we got to do now? And so I remember the stage manager, she came to me one day, and she was like, I just want to let you know that whenever we see your name on the list of the people that are coming, we all get so excited. And I'm like, really? I'm just the background singer. And she was like, no. She was like, yeah, you are. She was like, but we know that when Desmond is here, we don't ever have to look for him. He's always in his place. He has the right, look on. He knows his stuff. And because, the TV world is very stressful, behind the scenes, running all of that and everything. And having people that you're like, okay, it's time, where you at? Oh, I'm still, I'm on my way, makes a difference. And she didn't even say anything about my singing ability.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
That didn't matter. It was the fact that I was where I was supposed to be.
Right.
And again, that is what matters. And it's great to be good and talented, and but if you have that other stuff on top of that, people will remember you.
So
people will remember you.
4 takeaways, if we can make it even simpler than we've already done. Be kind.
Mm-hmm.
Be available. Be on time.
Mm-hmm.
Be prepared.
Be prepared. Yeah.
Take you a long way in this business.
Long way.
Yeah.
And we'll keep you working. And now, everybody ain't gonna be a Will Smith and a Denzel Washington or whatever. But you have musicians and singers and actors who stay working,
all the time,
stay booked, stay all the time. So again, it just depends on what kind of life you want and where you see yourself and all of that. I enjoy working and doing the work that I do, but I also enjoy being able to go to Target and not be swarmed by people and stuff like that, because I'm just so regular, like, and I say this just low key, regular guy. Now when I'm on stage, we turn up.
okay.
But yeah, I've always just like, I just want to work. I just want to work doing what I love. If I become a star, okay, if that's the road that I'm taking or whatever, but I just want to work. I just want to do what I do, because there was times where the phone wasn't ringing.
Mm-hmm.
There were times where I was doing, background gigs at different times and not getting paid, or the check wasn't there, or 2 weeks later and I still haven't gotten paid these $75 that that I was supposed to get. You know what I'm saying? And I remember those days. I remember the struggle, because it wasn't, I wasn't starving, but there was struggle I had to work through. And again, but as we know, the struggle is what strengthens us if we allow it. We can let it kill us, or we can let it make us stronger. And I decided to let the struggle make me stronger here. I had to start making some better decisions. I had to start saying, no, I'm not available. And that's another thing. There's going to come a time where your no is going to mean more for you than your yes. Because as long as you accept the crumbs and the little bit, and again, we all have to accept them, starting out, but there will come a time where you're like, no, my value has increased. My worth has increased. So I'm not able to do this for that rate, or for that, for that amount of money. I can maybe find someone, or maybe I can refer someone, but I don't do that anymore, and that's
a great point. That's a great point. I don't mean to cut you off, but
no, you're good.
Some people, again, want to know, you just told people that they have permission to say no. But the timing of no is critical, because you didn't say no when you first moved to Atlanta.
Right. I was everywhere.
Now is not the time to say no in Broadway. Right now, you need to be yes, because you got to know that the yeses are going to build momentum, and you create, like you said, that reputation that stage manager, that producer in TV was talking about. She said, I can rely on Desmond. So at that point in her mind, you have a person that will literally fight for you to get paid, because she would rather have you around than some people. Because at a certain point in this business, talent, everybody's got talent, right? I know that's the name of the show, but that's literally the truth. Business, once you get to a certain level, everybody's talented. So that no longer makes the difference, because everybody can sing, everybody can play, everybody's been on a tour bus before, whatever, right?
Right, yeah.
It becomes, do I want to be around you for the duration of the session? Do I want to be around you on the tour bus? Do you add any value to me outside of your talent? And when that answer is always yes, then that's when I believe that the no's become more appropriate, because now you have that people cannot live without. I think too many times musicians and singers, aspiring actors, that they're so quick to want to be able to say no. Well, now
but it's fear.
With go time, right? You got to build that.
Yeah, you have to build that, and you have to know when that switch happens. And I think that you got to know when you're there, and you got to be wise. And during that time where, like, at first, I'm saying yes to everything. I'm singing at funerals, weddings, bar mitzvahs. I'm singing at the little juke joint with the, whatever, because I'm like, I got to, get my name out here. You figure this thing out. And then once you start figuring it out, and you're like, okay, do I want to just be a singer, or do I want to be a businessman? And so that is a mindset thing. So I'm like, if I'm, okay, year 1, year 2, now, okay, I got some things on my resume. Some people know who I am now. So who is it helping me to do a gig for $75? It's not helping me. Right. It's not building, especially when I'm like, now I'm on TV making SAG money. Hey, that's SAG after. You say what? You say what now?
A whole other podcast episode, by the way.
Oh, right. Okay. Yeah, that SAG money is like totally different. So I'm like, well, I'm making this. And then too, and a lot of that time I was, like I said, I was working, like clocking in, working a job. And so I'm like, well, I'm getting paid this sitting at my desk. I'm not about to like take off and come make even less than what I'm making at a desk that I don't even want to be at. That don't make no sense, you know. So that's when the business acumen, I believe, begins to present itself.
Right.
And you're like, okay, do I just want to be a singer, someone they call, or do I want them to be like, okay, if you call Desmond, I'm letting you know. This is what people have told me. If you call Desmond, you need to have your business together. You need to have blah 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 blah, and don't be, you know, because I put the work in. I put the work in, and when you are dependable, when you are known for your integrity, then yes, you can confidently say no, I'm not available with no fear. Like if I say no, they won't call me again. Lies. Don't believe it.
Right.
Don't believe it. Your work will speak for itself. Your integrity, all of those things, your reputation goes before you. It enters the room even before you do. So there will come a time where, you know, you'll just have to, you know, whatever, and again, whatever field you're in, just have to grudge through it, you know, or whatnot. But there will come a time where you're able to, where you should be able to say no. And when you say that no, it opens you up to that next opportunity to where you're like, yes, this is what I'm talking about. So, but yes, I remember those days, man. Wondering if my lights was gonna stay on or, you know, whatever, because, you know, a check didn't come through, or, you know, I'm having to find people like, hey, you said, you know, but and then but once I started saying no, so many opportunities began to open up for me. Yeah.
You are now on Broadway.
Mm-hmm.
There may not be a space available that you occupy as a tenant, but someone wants to know, how do I become a background vocal artist? They think they need to be a background singer. Talk about how to become a background vocal artist so that your phone will ring.
Yeah. Well, be able to sing. But it's not even about that. Like I know a lot, I'm talking about background artists who have long resumes, and to hear them sing like a solo or sing by themselves, it's just kind of like, oh, okay. But they know how to alter their sound. They know how to, and that's what really makes a background singer an artist. If you know how to change and manipulate your sound to fit whatever artist or whatever space you're in. I can't be on a reggaeton stage and use the same voice or technique that I did when I was with the CCM artist. You know, different vibes, different sound. So, you know, anytime that you're able to give the artist the support and the sound that they want, they will call you until you say stop calling. And that's really a thing, is being basically like a vocal chameleon, knowing how to go from, you know, a full sound like this to a breathy sound like this. And if you're able to do that without a whole lot of let's do it again, whatever, if you're able to like switch on and off depending on what they're asking for, that is what makes, or I say, defines a background artist. That you're able to change. Okay, we need it to be this way. We need it to sound like this. We want, you know, or you know, like, we want you to kind of lay back on it, lay, you know, under the tempo. No, we need you to be on the tempo. We need you to be, you know, and that is what makes a background artist. Everybody can sing, you know, give them a mic, sing, you know, but when it comes to blending, can you blend with other singers? You know, do you know how to invert the parts? Do you know what modulate means? Do you know that literally means you're about to sing in another key? You know, because if the music go up and you don't,
you have to go too. When the band moves, you move.
You got to move too. And so, yeah, and again, like I said, the backgrounds aren't in the background anymore. Like, they're up there with the artist. They're being called out to the front on the artist stage. And so if you don't, if you aren't confident, if you're like, artists these days are looking, like looking for other artists to play and to sing with them, versus just somebody just up there on a mic. So those are things that, and you can do that by just listening to different records, listening to different. What I used to love to do in my preparation for being a background singer, I would listen to like live albums. Not the studio albums, but like the live albums that had the arrangements are a little bit different, a little bit modified than the actual studio. Because most of the times you're going to be on stage with these artists in a live setting.
Right.
So, looking on YouTube, that's what I would do. Like if I would get a call to, hey, can you travel or go somewhere with this, Angie Stone or this person, I would immediately go to YouTube and look at their live show. Like, what is their feel? What do they like? And like, okay. So by the time I went to rehearsal, I knew kind of what they liked, what their sound was, when I was working with Angie Stone, and she's an R&B artist. So, everything is very funky. So I had to kind of dirty it up a little bit. Whoop, 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 I wouldn't sing like that singing behind Carrie Underwood, or whatnot. So you have to be able to adapt, like we were saying earlier, to whatever the sound is, and so forth and like that. So the more you're able to adapt, and the more you're able to be a chameleon, not only will your phone continue ringing, but it'll just be ringing from everywhere, because they know if we call Desmond or we call such and such, that he'll be able to get the job done. So that's what you want. You want not to be stuck in like one genre or one area. You want everybody calling you. You want the Latin artists to call you because they know how to come on the floor. They know how to switch it up. So that is a big piece of advice that I would give for anyone who would like to step into that world, into that realm. Be as much of a vocal chameleon as possible, just so you can get as many opportunities as possible.
That was a major hack as well. So I hope everybody caught that. YouTube is your friend, and
it is your friend.
As a band leader, I've often encouraged our personnel to do the same thing. Use that strategy of going to see live shows, because when you only hear the record, the record version of the song, you don't know what they do live. You don't know how to enhance that. So one great tip, hack, whatever you want to call it, is what you just said, would be to go to YouTube, look for the live arrangements of the song, so that you understand that in this particular part of the song, they actually the MD has built in a spot for the male or female vocalist, the background singers, to come out and take the show for a second. And they get the spotlight. If you already know that lyric, that technique, if you already know that choreography, you could do that in that audition when it ever comes your way. We'll be like, okay, this is not the regular audition right here. This person almost looks like they are part of the act already.
Right. Yeah.
Or you can become a part of the act before you're a part of the act. The easier it is for them to say yes.
And can I say something? You mentioned audition. And I can't say that as far as like when I was background singing that I did a lot of auditions, but what I will say is every performance, every rehearsal, everything is your audition for your next gig or show or whatever. Again, your reputation enters the room before you do. And I've been in places where the producer or the MD is wanting to assemble, a cast of artists, and they're like, Desmond, do you know anybody who plays or does this or sings this part? And I'll say, oh, what about such and such? And they're like, no, because last time they was always late. They didn't know they stuff. But I'm like, oh, so that's happening all the time, where people are not getting calls because of the last show or the last, instance that they did. So trust me, everything matters. Everything matters in in what we do. And so that's why I wanted to point that out. When you get an opportunity, do it. I mean, be 100%, because that is your audition. Because not only it's not just about that producer, the bass player, he's working on some other projects. That's another call, so forth and so on. So it's not just about the artist.
Right.
A lot of times people just want to impress the artist or whatever. But nope, that MD, just like he put y'all together for that, he's putting together another team for another artist or another production or another TV show. So you have to keep that in mind because you just don't know who everyone knows, So yeah.
The music ecosystem is what you just described. And again, that's a recurring theme often on Musically Hitched episodes is how to keep not just the money, of course, flowing, but money won't flow if opportunity is not flowing to you. You have to know how to keep the door of opportunity open. And when you realize that everyone around you is a valuable member of the ecosystem, everybody right.
Yeah.
You should treat everybody the same, but when it comes to treating people right? So you have to know who you're talking to, and you also don't need to show respect to the person, right? Because like you said, the bass player may be in a totally different camp next week, and that nobody on this gig is on. But he was who he was on the gig with last week, to your point, and it might be just what they need. If he can also take your reputation.
Yeah.
Right. So that's a very, very powerful nugget. Talk to us about the audition process. So you have done some. You said you have not done, you didn't always have to audition to get an opportunity. Right. But you have done a few, and particularly the one that allowed you to become a part of the production Born for This. So tell us about that particular audition, how that came about, how you prepared, and what it led to next.
Crazy story. So like I said, I was singing and traveling with various artists and recording and all of that, and it was great. I loved it. It was a good time. It really was, even during the not so great times. Towards the end of that chapter of my life, looking back, I started I was like, I'm not really enjoying this anymore. And we've come to this place now where everything is about, okay, finding your happiness. And if something isn't making you happy, you have to look into see and what is that about? Why is that? Being self-aware and listening to your spirit and listening to the spirit who's always speaking, And I remember my phone ringing for gigs, and I would literally feel grieved that I was being asked to come sing background. And I was like, I don't know why, because I do well and they like me or whatever. And I remember being on a project. It was a live recording, and I was mad the whole time. I had it, and anyone who knows me knows that I am I'm always smiling. I'm always, and I just had an attitude the whole time. And I was just like, I don't want to be here. And I was talking to one of the other singers that was in the cast as well. And I was like, I think this is my last time. This is my last gig. And he was like, whatever, you're Desmond. You're the Desmond, like everybody calls you in Atlanta. I was like, I know, but I just don't feel, it's not giving me what it once did, It's not bringing me contentment. It's not bringing me happiness and fulfillment. And I'm at the point in my life, I'm like, if it's not bringing me happiness and fulfillment, I don't want, And so I said, I think this is about to be my retirement. Because this is like 2015. I had been working since 2004. And it was time for a flip in the page. I didn't know that at the time. And so I was like, okay, people in Atlanta know me as the background singer. So I don't know what I'm going to do next, but as long as I'm here, that's what people are going to, recognize me as. So I ended up going up to Nashville, and I was there. I have a family who lives there. So I was like, I just need to get out of Atlanta and just figure some stuff out. Went up to Nashville, just to kind of get away. And it was really during like by myself time. I didn't even tell anybody I was leaving. Didn't do a goodbye party or anything like that. I just left. One thing about Desmond, he will pack a bag and go if he needs to. And so I was able just to get away and just kind of like be with myself and be with God. And so I was like, okay, God, because at this point I'm like 35, and I'm like, what's next? By this time, most people they're settling down and finding their groove and finding their flow, and I'm still kind of grasping out here. Like, what are we doing? And so I was just like, well, God, if it's not meant for me to be a recording artist and all of that, then whatever it is that I'm supposed to be doing, let me know, because I'm not getting any younger. And I don't want to just be running into a wall for the sake of I'm trying to do something and, well, it's not working. So what else is there? And so I literally just prayed a prayer of surrender. I'll never forget. I prayed a prayer of surrender, and I'm just like, God, whatever it is I'm supposed to be doing on this side of of things, let me know. Let's go. Let's do it. No more games. No more procrastinating. Let's do it. And I got a email alert from a friend of mine in Atlanta, who's a wedding coordinator. She would hire me to sing at some of her weddings that she would coordinate for her clients. And so she was like, "Hey, how you doing? Good. She was like, I don't know how this got sent to me, because she's not in theater at all. I don't know how this email came to me, but it's a casting call for an upcoming musical called Born for This, the BB Winan story." And so at first I was like, I know she said musical, but is this a stage play? Like, like a gospel type of thing, Tyler Perry type of thing? And so she was like, yeah, I don't know how this got to me, but when I saw the casting notice, I thought of you. And then she said, let me know when you get the part. And I was just like, interesting. So of course I go to Google. I'm like, I ain't heard nothing about a musical about BB Winans, and I'm from the gospel world. Like, I'm from that side of things.
Right.
And sure enough, they had already done a reading and a workshop in New York. Oprah was involved, and it was just I was just like, okay, I'm gonna audition. So the show was playing in Atlanta, so I ended up going back to Atlanta to audition for the role, and it was the role of Carvin Winans. Tomorrow, forget about tomorrow. And I was like, oh my God, I was raised on the Winans. Like, my dad was the biggest Winans fan, so that's all we had in the house was the Winans. So I'm like, this is like childhood, music or whatever. And I auditioned there in Atlanta, had a call back, and had to do a dance call. And I had a final call back with me and one other guy that they were looking at, and I ended up getting the role. And so I was like, it was in that moment where it was like, God said, you got it now? I was like, I got it now. I got it now.
What did you sing at the audition?
I sung Tomorrow. And it's so funny. I will never forget being at the audition and like the other other people going into the audition room to audition. I'm talking about, because typically if you're going in for a role, especially like a biographical role where you're actually going and portraying a real person, it's good to look up the person, even if you don't know who they are. Let me just put this out here. If you're going up for a role and the role is an actual living, breathing person, whether they're alive or past, look them up, see if there's something they're known for, whether it's a song, whatever. Especially if you're able to sing your own material. A lot of musicals, you have to sing songs from the show.
Right.
And then some auditions, they're like, sing a song that's going to showcase your range or whatever. It was people going in there singing Nobody Knows the Trouble I've Seen. I've had some good days. I've had some hills to come. There were guys going in there who were baritones. And Carvin Winans was the tenor of the group. He sang in the top part. So I'm just like, no. So I went in, and BB Winans was actually in the room, in the audition room. So I was kind of like,
Oh,
okay, all right, don't spaz out, you know. And he's like, what are you gonna sing? And I said, I'm gonna sing Tomorrow. And he was like, well, isn't that a smart idea? So do your study, you know, if you ever get an audition, you know, about a character, look them up, YouTube, you know, and if they sing high, don't go in there singing low in the basement. Anyway, so yeah, I got cast in the show, and like I said, I felt the spirit saying, okay, this is what we're doing, and I said, okay, let's go. Let's go. And we opened in Atlanta. We did a month premiere there in Atlanta at the Alliance Theater. Shout out to the Alliance Theater. Jody Fletcher, who still stays in contact with me today, who's the associate director there.
awesome.
Shout out to the whole Atlanta theater acting community.
Right.
It's so, oh my God, just the talent is it's crazy. You know? So I'm glad I got my start there. And then the show went to DC and played there. The show went to LA and played there. So already I'm just like, okay, you know, and I'm playing one of the Winans brothers. This was crazy. And it was during that show that I was invited to join the AEA, which is theater's union. And like to work on Broadway, to work in New York, you have to be a member of the equity and so I was able to join equity during that time, put more on my resume during that time, you know, and so I'm gonna go back because I'm gonna transition over into how Hamilton came about. While I was doing Born for This, my now manager, we linked up. We were friends and knew each other because he was involved in the music world as well. Shout out to John Hart. And he had left the management game because, you know, he was just kind of over it at that time. And so I'm just starting, you know, doing theater acting. And so we were talking one night and I was like, you know, I feel this is what my next, you know, step is, my next chapter is acting and theater and so forth and so on. And so he was like, okay. He was like, I actually know an agent in New York that I think you should meet. And I was like, okay. Cause at this point I'm like, I just need information. Like I'm new. What do I do? How do I, you know, traverse this world? And so I went up to New York and met with Roger, who's my agent now. Shout out to Roger Paul. And so he was like, so you want to be an actor, huh? I was like, I am an actor. I'm a new actor. But yeah, like, what do I do? How do I do this? And so he was like, okay, well, of course, you're going to have to get, you know, some more on your resume, get some training, get your equity card. And he's like, and ultimately, you're going to have to move to New York because this is where Broadway is. And so I was like, okay. And this was summer of 2016. Keep going. I'm doing Born for This again. So I've done 3 versions of Born for This now, you know, and I've done, you know, some workshops with other other theaters. Like I literally got a call from an associate director who saw Born for This in DC. He ended up moving to Cleveland Playhouse in Ohio. He was doing a workshop and remembered me from the Born for This experience. So like I say, every job, every performance, every gig, every project that you do, it literally is your audition for your next one. And he called me and was like, hey, would you be interested in doing this workshop of this new show? The lead guy we had couldn't do it for some reason. And I thought of you. And so, yeah, sure. So I went there. So, you know, another bullet point on the resume. And so now we're in LA with Born for This. And I mean, we're performing for, you know, Denzel Washington, Pauletta came to the show, Loretta Devine, Stevie Wonder, Barry Gordon, like all these people are coming to see us tell this story about the Winans. And so while I was in LA, Hamilton, the first tour, was only one tour out at this time, came to town. And I knew, had a friend in the cast. And so I was able to see the show. And I was completely blown away. I was completely blown away, like face just on the floor at this. And I was like, wait a minute, you mean to tell me this is what I'm aspiring to be and do? I'm like, it was like watching superheroes like work, the Avengers and stuff like that. And it kind of scared me because Born for This wasn't a big show, but it wasn't like, you know, a local show. So it was kind of like right there in the middle.
Mm-hmm.
So that Born for This was as big as it gotten for me. And now I'm looking at Hamilton and looking at like, I'm like, oh, so this is what the real actors, the real Broadway actors are doing. And I literally said in my mind, I was like, I'm going to be in this show, but it'll probably take about like 2 years of, you know, experience, other, you know, and I was fine with that because again, I'm new. And outside of the Pantages Theater in downtown Hollywood, I told my cousin who was there with me, I said, I'm going to be in the show. She was like, you sure are. And I ended up having to go back to New York after Born for This. We had closed there in LA because I was part of just another little small production that I was doing in New York. So I went to New York. This is a year later from when I met the agent. So I ended up reconnecting with Roger, the agent. And so I was like, yeah, it's been a year. And, you know, you gave me like a list of things that I needed to do, you know, and I've done those things. And he was like, wait, what? I was like, I have my equity card. I have a few more shows on my resume. I was training with an acting coach while I was in LA. So you're going to always receive instructions, people, you know, in whatever field you're in. And it's up to you to follow them, to take heed to them or not. Just like we were talking about the virgins earlier. You know, they knew they had to get those lamps filled, but only 5 of them did. And I want to be able to go into the party, you know. And so he said, wow, okay, interesting. So, okay. He was like, so is there a show that you might be interested in like being in? I said, well, I just saw Hamilton. It blew my mind. He was like, oh yeah, I think you'd be great in Hamilton. I'm going to get you an audition. Mm-hmm. And I was like, yeah, okay, sure. And sure enough, I was in Brooklyn at the time, staying with a friend in Brooklyn. And remember this, because this goes back to the beginning when I was talking about the Micah Stampley project. It was a Friday. Roger called me and said, hey, I got an audition for Hamilton for you. And I was like, oh, okay. And I was like, so when is it? He was like, Monday. I was like, wait, what? He was like, Monday morning, your audition for Hamilton, downtown, you know, so woo. And so he was like, I'm gonna send you over the material that they want you to read. And it was 10 songs, five songs for Aaron Burr and 5 songs from George Washington. And I had to learn all 10 songs to be ready for this audition Monday morning. And immediately I like my first knee jerk reaction was kind of like anxiety, kind of, you know, freaking out. And then I said, but I've done this before. Mm-hmm. I've learned a whole, you know, album of songs in 2 days before. If I did it before, I can do it again. And so that started my audition process with Hamilton. I went in there. It was just the casting director there at Telsey, which is like the biggest casting company there in New York, TV, film, theater, you know. All the actors go through Telsey. They, you know. So I go in and I'm performing the songs. It's just me and a piano player. I'm sweating. I'm nervous. Pit stains. It was terrible. And so auditioning in Atlanta is it's a different culture altogether. Mm-hmm. You know, you go in there and you sing whatever the note and the stuff, and they're like, whoa, yeah. Like, you know, the casting, they rocking. They like, sing, baby. In New York, she looked at me like, I mean, I was giving it, so I thought. And she just looked at me like, and I was like, wow. So of the 10 songs that I had prepared, I think I had to do like 7 or 8 of them. And so after I was done and I was trying to catch my breath and stuff, and so she looks kind of like, picks up my resume, looks at it, and she was like, I just have one question. And I was like, okay. She was like, who are you? Where did you come from? And why don't I know you? And I was like, well, let me tell you, you know, because again, she knows all the actors, you know, there. And so I was like, yeah, I'm new, I'm fresh on the scene. And so she was like, I see that you worked with, a director that I know and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, yeah, yeah, yeah. So she was like, okay, would you mind coming back for a callback? Sure. And so that started my 2-month audition process.
2 months.
For Hamilton, 2 months. And so, like I said, in Atlanta, maybe a day or two as far as callbacks are concerned, and they, you got it or you didn't. 2 months of going back and forth to New York was like an adjustment. And I remember each time I had to go, because I'm not living in New York. I'm not living there. So I'm going back home to Nashville and stuff like that. And each time I got a call saying, hey, they want to see you again, I was able to go up there and, make it happen. There was one particular audition that I'll never forget because I really believe that my angels were in the room with me. There were two particular songs, and I can't remember which ones they were, but there were two particular songs that I just was not comfortable with. And I mean, I was like, I can make it through if I have to perform these songs in the audition room, but I just can't get it right now. And I don't really feel that comfortable like I do with the other pieces. And so after a while, I was like, well, it's time to go into the audition room and do it. It's in God's hands. So I go in and we just start going down the list of the songs that they wanted me to do. And right before we got to the first song that I wasn't comfortable with, the only way I can explain it is I saw the director, whoever was running the audition, kind of like twitch a little bit. And so he was like, you know what? Okay, that's good. We'll skip this song. And so I was just kind of like, okay, that's interesting, so I didn't have to do it. So he's like, let's go into some more, some other songs. So we went into those songs that I was familiar with and comfortable with. And then we got to the second song that I wasn't comfortable with. And he kind of twitched again, almost like something was nudging him. And he said, I think we've heard enough for today. And I was like, do you remember the movie back in the day called Angels in the Outfield?
Yeah.
I was like, I promise, like angels in the audition room, like when we came to the songs, that my angel was in there saying, nope, don't go to the next one. And that's literally what happened. Like the first time it happened, I was just kind of like, okay. And then when the second song came up that I wasn't that comfortable with, he was about it, and he like did like that, said, you know what? We've heard enough. We've heard enough for today. Thank you so much. So yeah, that was quite the experience of auditioning. And so like after I had a total of 5 auditions with the casting director, with the directors, I had a dance call, I had a work session, where you're doing the scene and the director saying, okay, well, try it this way, give me this, or how would you play it if you were this age or this, And so after my 5th audition, I was staying at a friend's place in New Jersey, and my phone rang. It was a New York number, so I thought it was my agent calling. And so it was the casting director from the very first audition that I did. And so I was like, oh, hi. She was like, this is not how we do things here. This is not how this goes. Typically, communication goes to your agent. She was like, but you absolutely blew us away in your auditions. And I wanted to personally call and thank you for letting us be your first audition. Because I was like, yeah, this is my first audition in New York. All of this is just first. And she's like, I wanted to personally call and tell you that we're offering you a contract. And so I was like, oh, wow, okay, thank you. And I just knew that I was, that it was going to be an ensemble. Because again, you got to start where you start. So, and I was fine with that. I was like, just get me in the door, And I was like, oh man, being a part of the ensemble, that's going to be so great. And so, she was like, oh, no, 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 no. This is a principal contract. And I was like, I know what principal mean. And so I was cast as a standby, which is basically shows have offstage companies. They're swings, understudies, standbys, and what this simply means, there's actors and ensemble members who know several roles and can go swing into a role at any moment. Especially with a show like as big as Hamilton, you have to have a lot of people in the wings that aren't on stage every night. But if someone gets hurt, someone calls out, someone gets sick, that person goes into that role, and the show keeps going. And so I was cast to cover 3 of the male principal roles: George Washington, Aaron Burr, and the Hercules Mulligan James Madison role. There we go. And at first, of course, I've never done anything like that before. Again, but I was just like, it's here, and we're gonna figure it out. We're gonna figure out how to do all these 3 roles, 3 three totally different characters. And we're doing it and been doing it since then. So it was from when I saw Hamilton, and said it would take 2 years to do the show. It took 2 months from when I saw Hamilton when I was cast in the show.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's incredible. Incredible story. And it's not something that obviously you could have planned, but you did plan to be in the show. And you took it to yourself and you started doing the steps. And that was an important part of the story for me, is that everything your agent, Roger, you do, you did. And it almost sounded like he forgot that he told you that. So, because sometimes people give you this story or this jargon or this, that smoke screen, right?
Yeah.
You take it seriously because he was legit, but then you actually said, this is the plan. Somebody just gave me a blueprint.
Yeah.
They gave me instruction. And like you said, you're only as good as your last show, your last audition, and we're only really as good as the last instruction that we implement or follow.
Mm-hmm.
Because everything that's just pending is still undone.
Right.
You can't count anything that's not done, but you completed all those steps. So to our audience, today, and again, whenever you hear this, complete the last step.
Yeah.
That's all you can do anyway. But all the steps that have to be completed in order for you to get where you're going. And that was powerful, because it almost seemed like it prompted him into action. He immediately said, well, what type of show do you want to be on? So he was holding back some of the opportunities from you until you showed him.
Because of course, I mean, he's been in the business a long time, so he knows how people come and
right.
go, And he told me, he was like, when you came back and had checked those things off the list, he was like, oh, you actually listened. He's like, people don't listen. People don't listen these days. What do you say? People don't listen. People think they know it all and just want to, and then they be mad at you when stuff don't work out. But I told, and but that again has been my posture since I was a kid. Like, give me instruction, give me what to do, make my life easier. Don't, have me, I don't want to figure it out all by myself. If you say don't play in traffic because you're going to get hurt, I'm not going to test it. I'm just not going to play in traffic,
right.
And so that's just always been my thing, to like heed instructions, especially from people who are doing or have done what I want to do. To be able to sit in the studio with a Cedric Thompson and be able to sit in the studio with a Kevin Bond and to be able to, sit and work with these artists and talk with them and hear their stories. And why would not take that free advice and information? And, people pay top dollars to go to these seminars and get this type of instruction. And, but no, I'm always, even now, even still, yes, I'm in Hamilton, but guess what? I hired a vocal coach, I hired a acting coach because I'm doing things that I've never done before. Right. Not to say I can't do them, but I have to learn how to do. You know what I mean? So the work doesn't stop now. It's just we're just beginning.
That's awesome. So from Miss Green to Cedric Thompson to your dad, mom, to Roger,
Yeah.
people have given
Yeah.
instructions along the way, and your ability to implement changed the game.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Yeah. So I'm thankful. I'm thankful just for where I am now. And I'm just like, if this is the beginning, you know, I can't even imagine where this is going, you know, because I'm like, Hamilton is, you know, Hamilton, right? And I'm like, if that's where I'm starting, I'm like, woof, you know, what's coming next is going to be even more, you know. So I'm just like, I'm enjoying, like I said, I'm enjoying the ride. I'm in my flow. I'm going with the river where it flows, you know, where it takes me, and just learning along the way, and keeping my relationships intact. I believe that the power of relationships is so much more valuable than how much money you have, what you have, or who you know, all that type of thing. When you have relationships with people, you know, who are the producers and who are the gatekeepers and the movers and the shakers or whatnot, that's when, you know, you hit that stride where you're not having to like audition all the time. You just get the call, you know, because people like you, like what we've been saying this whole interview. You know, if people like you, if people want to work with you, they will work with you. And if you know, if you're not likable, and I know that's a very elementary concept, but it's the simple things that confound the wise. So if people want to work with you, they will. And they will remember, you know, that you showed up for them, and they will remember when you didn't.
Yeah.
They sure will. Even if you've changed, like you're not even that person anymore, they still remember 20 years ago, that one project or one show where you know, you didn't show up. So yeah, keep that reputation intact, because our name is what is all we have out here.
One other nugget, I'm sure you can give me a short answer to this, because you know anything that in the world is on the internet these days. But for those listening, we try to add, you know, again, as much as possible to the listeners. SAG, what does it stand for? What does it do? Short.
Oh, SAG, I did mention that. SAG-AFTRA is another union for television and film actors. So that's how, just like factory workers have unions, different crews, you know, who set stuff up, tear stuff down, they have union, and we do too. So our theater unions, AEA, Actors Equity Association. And so that's where our benefits come from. That's where, you know, all of our protection and stuff like that, our rights are protected, just, you know, just like any other union. So a SAG-AFTRA is the union for television and film actors. So if ever you're watching a show or a movie and you watch the credits, you'll see SAG-AFTRA on the credits, because that's everybody's union on that set. That covers the crew, people you don't see, like, you know, all of that on a TV film set. Yeah. So since I was on it, even though I'm not a SAG member, because I haven't like been on a TV show or whatnot, but like when I was on a SAG set, I got SAG rates, even though I'm not a member. Like when I was doing the Monique show, I was getting SAG rates, and I was looking at those chicks like, you paid me just to do some oohs and ahs? Oh, yes. So, you know, but I had to grow to get there. I didn't start there when I got to Atlanta. No. But I eventually got there. So yeah.
So to the point earlier that we were making about, you know, not being the starving artist, you have to become educated about what the industry does to pay for your services. And you position yourself, if it's being a songwriter, you've got to get registered with a performing rights organization. An actor or an actress, you want to be connected with SAG, because that's going to establish, that is like the law, right? The laws for pay. This is what tells you, not only is it not for free, but what you expect to make. And you sound like you made a little bit more than you were expecting to make for.
Oh man, it was new to me. It was new to me, and I was like, if this is what y'all are paying, you know, a house singer, I can't imagine, you know. So again, when you're exposed to more and to things, you're just like, well, okay, let's keep going. Let's see where this takes us. Because again, you know, when you're in your comfort zone and in your hometown, there's such a big world out here, and there's so many things that you'll never understand or never be able to be a part of unless you're there. If you're looking for oil, you have to go to the oil field. You know, you can't be in the tundra looking for sand. You know what I mean? Like that doesn't make sense.
Right.
You know, you have to go where your calling or your passion is flourishing. You know, and then once you've done that, and now you got a little name for yourself, you got a little money in the bank. If you want to go back home, go back home. You know, now people know you now, so they'll fly you out. You know what I mean? Right. So, you know, that's the joy or the motivation, you know. But yeah, starting out, you know, I had to go where the music was. Right. If that's, you know, because it was not where I was. Right. And that was the leap that I made. And I'm so glad that I did.
Absolutely. What's next for Desmond Sean Ellington?
A show in a couple of hours.
Couple of hours. Right.
Yes, that is what's next for me. But yeah, no, I'm currently still, as we're speaking, on tour with Hamilton. So yeah, I have a show tonight, and I was thinking, I was like, woo, hope I didn't talk my voice out. Right. Because we got 3 hours of talking to do at the show tonight. But no, yeah, that's I'm here with the show through the end of the year. We're all on contracts. You know, in these type of shows, if you see, you know, see actors, whatever, we're all on contracts. Contracts end, contracts begin. So yeah, that's really where I am right now. I'm here in the show. What's next? I don't know. I'm always auditioning. We're always auditioning, sending self-tapes for other musicals, other TV programs, you know, so forth and so on. But this is where I am now, and learning as much as I can. So when it's time for me to leave Hamilton, I can say I've done what I was supposed to do in that moment, and now it's time to move on. So I don't know when that moment will be, but when it comes, I'll be ready for it.
Well, Desmond, it has been an absolute pleasure to have you on Musically Hits. You are a great example of how to get hits and stay hits, and that nothing but good things are in store for you. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been another episode of Musically Hits. I am your host, Zach Reynolds Jr. with Desmond Sean Ellington. We will see you real soon. Take care. Supporting this podcast is easy. Just hit the subscribe button. See you on the next episode.